chance. And I was like, by that rationale, every person you've ever been in a room naked with has wanted to have sex with you. Tony's a basketball player. I was a football player. I was like, man, if that is true, I owe a lot of dudes an apology. I had no idea that all these guys were wanting to have sex with me, and I was rude, you know, I didn't have sex with them, so I gotta go back and apologize. He's like, well, no, that's different. I was like, not really, man, because all you have permission, you're both naked in there, is you have permission to see that person naked. Like, that's where it stopped. That's all you had permission for. And so, I did have to give him this one, and this was fair, because he was like, well, let's get in bed together. And it was a consensual getting into bed. They both agreed they wanted to be in bed together. And they were living in a residence hall. And y'all, how many of y'all live on campus? Show of hands. All right, so y'all know, like, these are not big beds. And Tony's he's 6'5", 250. And I'm like, I'll give you this, Tony. If I get into bed naked with you, it's fair to say parts are going to touch. But you're a big fella, and I'm not that small, and we're in this tiny little bed. I would say arguably you have consent to have our parts be touching each other. But you don't have consent to have sex with them. And we walked through it like step by step, like what was it? And then he started talking about, well, you know, then we started kissing again, and then she like reached around, put her hand around me, and we're like, now we're getting into it, right? There are active things. Now the one thing I want you to look for, and what these affirmative consent laws are also talking about, they actually, I'll give you the investigatory term for it. The investigatory term for it is a deviation from baseline sexual behavior, which is to say, if somebody's into it and you're doing it, and then they stop, you need to ask. You need to check in, because that stopping might be an indicator of a withdrawal of consent. Now, consent cannot be given ahead of time. They can't say, well, it's 7 o'clock now, and at 9:30 we're having sex. At 9:30 you don't get to just have sex with them. Like, you got to check in again and make sure you still have consent. They can withdraw consent during the act. You can be in the act of sex, and if they're like, stop, or I don't want to do this, or give you any sort of that withdrawal, closing off, silence, whatever, you got to stop and check in. And if they say stop, you got to stop. Now, I did have a guy tell me, he's like, man, you can't just stop in the middle. I was like, sure you can. He's like, no, you can't. I was like, yes, you can. And he's like, imagine this. So there you are, you're in the throes of sex, but you don't know that I've come into the room with my gun. And I walk up behind you, and you're right there, and it's going on, and I go, stop. You're going to stop. In fact, a series of physiological things are going to contribute to your stopping. But you're going to stop. Like, it's totally possible to stop. And this is important because we've had this case happen, every second you're in after no is an assault. And you got to keep that in mind. So consent can be withdrawn at any time. I need you to definitely understand that. The last thing I'm going to touch on, because I know we've only got a few more minutes, talk a little bit about two things that are going on. One's called, it has everything to do with social media, and we just started talking about this recently because of what's been happening. Two things in the law that are happening. One has to do with revenge porn. Y'all familiar with this? Okay, revenge porn goes like this. And I'm just gonna, it can happen male to female, male to male, female to female, female to male. More common right now is girl sends pictures to guy of herself naked. Dude has those pictures. Now, what's important for you to understand is if you take a picture of yourself naked and you send it to somebody, it's now their property. That belongs to them. Now, what revenge porn is you send the naked pictures to him or her or whoever, and they have it, and then y'all break up, and they've still got it, and you're like, delete those pictures, and they're like, no, those are mine. That's not revenge porn yet. But if they share those pictures with somebody with the intent of harassing you or embarrassing you or demeaning you, then it does cross the line. California, New York, Colorado, Missouri have all passed revenge porn laws. Some of them have wrapped them up in their cyberbullying laws. And so you need to understand that if you do have naked pictures of somebody and you start to share them again, make sure you understand that any outcropping of that results in harassment can result in you having been engaged in revenge porn. Yeah. Is that fair? Fair. 20, who's 24? Oh, okay, 18 and 24. So there you are. Then this applies less to you. Congratulations. For you 18-year-olds in the room, I'm going to be point blank about this. If you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend back at high school and they send you a naked picture of themselves and they are under the age of 18 and you have said naked picture in your possession, 4 years ago when this started happening as a phenomenon, the law didn't know what to do with it. This last 2 years, the law has become very aware of what to do with it. If you have it in your possession, you are in possession of child pornography. Yeah. What's that? The Romeo and Juliet laws? You mean, you're talking about the prom rule. Yeah. Like, that only has to do with age of consent for actual intercourse, for sexual acts. It doesn't have to do with the sharing of photos. The prom rule, Romeo and Juliet, does not count for the sharing. Because what matters is how old is the person in that picture. So if you have it and you share it, you are a possessor and sharer of child pornography. If you send it, you are a child porn distributor. And what we found is that some DAs are now getting very active about this. So be careful. I'm just going to tell you, it's not ending properly. The other one that happened, by the way, the way this works is you will be convicted or you'll plea out like our other guy did. I'll share another one with you because this is probably the worst one. So we had a guy at one of my schools in California, he's a tennis player. He has a girlfriend back in New Mexico at home, and he's not sending, there were pictures, but none of them were pornographic. But he's telling her all the stuff he wants to do to her next time he sees her, and she's sending him stuff back. She was, of course, turning 15 when this happened. So he's 18, turning 19. He's doing this, I can't wait till you get here, I'm gonna do this and this and this to you. What ends up happening is her dad finds the messages and sends them to New Mexico PD in Albuquerque. Albuquerque calls OC, LAPD, sorry. And LAPD does this because they realize this is out of their jurisdiction. And what he has eventually pled down to is the attempt of lewd and lascivious behaviors and attempting to coerce a minor across state lines for sex, which is a tier 1 sex offense, and it's also a federal sex offense. So the FBI had to do the investigation. Yeah, this is how shit gets real fast. And so that dude is now a registered tier 1 sex offender. He pled down so he would get no jail time. He's all probation. He has to complete his probation, serve a like amount of time of probation with no other offenses whatsoever, and then he can appeal to a judge to have himself removed. It will take about 10 years. So, I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just telling you that's what's going on. I need you to be painfully aware of the revenge porn piece and the child porn piece, because this stuff is the shift that happened. And the problem is because the law can't keep up with technology. This phenomenon of sending naked pictures via phone is a relatively young phenomenon in the law, and it's happening more with your age and your generation than it is with mine. Not to say that obviously, if you think about Anthony Weiner and the litany of things that the celebrities that have had the sex tapes released, it certainly people who are not your age do it, but it's more with the young folks. And it's because we grew up in a world where you didn't take a lot of naked pictures of yourself, mainly because we didn't have camera phones. So we'd have to send the film off to be developed and then go pick it up and have an awkward moment at Walgreens. So that's why we didn't do it. So the law is finally catching up, and what they're doing with it is becoming a little more aggressive. This is how it happens. The pendulum swings back and forth until it finds a center. I just don't want y'all to be on the wrong side of that. So just be very cognizant and think these things through. The advantage you all have that I don't think Joe or Jane's student have is you have teammates, you have each other. And so having been in a world where I had groups I was affiliated with, my teammates, my fraternity brothers, the other groups that I hung out with, I think teammates more than anything else, that if I'm about to do something stupid or I have a teammate that's about to do something stupid, I know how to intervene, and we have a respect for one another that allows us to do that. And that doesn't exist really in the same way outside of teams. And so my last thing I'm going to say to you, and then I'm going Stop. Everybody come down. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns?